How is creating a startup like dating? Let's talk to Mark Nogger of Startup Weekend to find out.
And a little bit later, Natalie Sawicki is going to come and talk to me about how AWS helps startups. And then later, we're going to go down the street to Techstars to find out about their startups and what they're working on.
We've got a great show today, so let's get started.
How's it going, Jeff? Great to see you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start by talking about the Startup Weekend concept.
You bet. We're about 4 years into it. It all started with Andrew Hyde back in 2009, and he had this idea of let's get a bunch of my friends together and let's all pool our great ideas and actually see if we can turn that into a business in the course of a weekend. What that really evolved into was this amazing concept of actually building community and providing a solution to the answer of where do you go when you have a good idea. And so that's really what's fueled Startup Weekend's growth into about 120 countries, almost 800 events this year.
You've defined the time frame as a weekend, so walk me through from beginning of the weekend to the end. What are the cool things that happen along the way?
You bet. Everybody shows up on Friday night, of course. In some other countries, it's Wednesday night. And it starts with 60-second pitches. Everybody has an opportunity, not everybody actually does it, but to stand up and declare what they're passionate about, what problems that they want to solve. And that really serves as the launching point for team formation. Other people in the crowd hear those ideas and say, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe I want to join that. Or I have some thoughts. Or man, that's already been done. And so it's that amazing collaboration between individuals where you get to aggregate all that knowledge and actually pour that into and launch into actually seeing if you have real ideas that can be validated and turn those into real companies.
Okay, so they pitch, and then what do they do next?
So after team formation on the Friday night, then you actually have a little bit more clarity around the problem definition. And then you get to go through, all right, is this a real problem? How many people is this a problem for? What does the solution start to look like? And so it culminates really on Sunday night with a quasi-investor pitch. And it's really an illustration of what were you able to validate? Did you prove? Is it, did you really find a real problem? Is it a big enough problem to call a company or a feature, or really deciding on what the next steps could be?
I'll be right back with the second part of my interview with Mark, but first, let's check in with Lee.
Thanks for joining me, Natalie.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Tell me about how Amazon Web Services supports Startup Weekend.
One of the things we like to do with Startup Weekend is we provide all of these Startup Weekend attendees with $100 in AWS service credits. So over the course of the weekend, they can build their applications and get to experience all of the products that we have available for startups.
Outside of Startup Weekend, how does AWS support startups in general?
Yeah, we have a number of activities that we run at AWS to help support startups. So we have the AWS Global Startup Challenge, which is an annual contest that startups can apply to, and they can win cash, prizes, credits, and other things as part of that program. Another thing that we do is we sponsor a lot of hackathons worldwide as well. So this is a great opportunity for developers to test out products over the weekends. They can build things that can be used outside of the hackathon that they can take back to school, or they can build with their friends over the course of a weekend.
Is that for any size of startup?
Yeah, so whether you have a startup that is you and your friends in your parents' basement, or maybe you're thinking about becoming the next Airbnb or maybe Pinterest, we have products and services available for all different types of startups, no matter how big or small.
Great, well, I'm glad to hear we're providing all this value to startups. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Now let's continue. What kind of skill sets do people typically bring to Startup Weekend?
We end up having about a third that are technical, so developers, engineers. We have a third that are designers, creatives, and then another third that are kind of the marketing, the business, the other types.
They get their team together, they've got the concept, they build. By Sunday night, they actually have something that's running and they can demonstrate?
In a lot of cases, yes. And fascinating thing is, almost a year later, we've been doing some longitudinal studies where about 11% are still alive, still doing something. Fascinating to see that come out of just a random Friday evening.
You said 11% of the teams are still functional a year afterward. Do they actually sometimes go from this is a cool hobby to this is actually a real business that we're building?
You bet. And oftentimes you'll get to work on teams between anywhere from like 3 to 8 people during the course of the weekend. And you might actually find that 2 or 3 of the individuals you may not want to work with, may not be compatible with. Then another couple of the team members you actually click as co-founders, because one of the big things in the analogies I like to use is dating. Finding a co-founder is like finding a spouse. You end up spending more time with them actually than your spouse probably in the first couple of years of starting a real business. So getting to sit down, actually work with a person, see how they react under stress, and not just meeting them at the bar before you get married is is actually a really powerful thing.
So how does AWS factor into this?
You bet. It's perhaps one of the most, I guess, standard tools that is utilized by startups. A lot of the validation, people always ask, what does tech have to do with startups, or are you guys only focused on technology startups? It turns out that even if you're trying to start a new coffee shop or a new restaurant, one of the greatest things that you could actually utilize are a lot of technology solutions to help understand who is my market, what problem am I solving, how do I communicate that. And then, obviously, on the technology, anytime you have a website, AWS turns out to be one of the default solutions. So we have the opportunity of working with you guys to provide that to entrepreneurs at free, if not severely discounted cost as they continue to grow.
I saw from your website you actually just launched something new called the Startup Digest.
It's been part of our evolution. Last October, we acquired the Startup Digest. It was also a Kauffman Foundation funded program originally that started about the same time Startup Weekend did. For us, it really is the solution of where do you go? It's pre-Startup Weekend. Where do you go when you want to get involved and find out what's going on in your startup community?
Really appreciate you taking the time to come by and speak with us, and wish you all the best for the future.
Great. Well, thanks, Jeff. It's been great having your guys' support, and knowing you here in Seattle as a mentor advisor to us over the last 4 years.
Let's go to Lee Zen for our Zen to the Cloud segment.
We're going to be going up the elevator to go talk to some of the folks at Techstars to find out what their elevator pitches are. Thanks for joining me. What's your 30-second elevator pitch?
Sure. We're a design lab. We teach non-designers design skills through hands-on projects and lessons in the browser. So for example, developers or non-designers like product people could learn the basics of product design to help them make better products.
Sounds super useful. Give me your 30-second elevator pitch.
Developers spend on an average 60 minutes building, testing, and deploying code. Shippable offers a platform that automates this and help them regain that lost minutes.
So Wire is all about making messaging fun. We think that messaging is a fundamental part of the mobile experience. So think about Wire being your extraneural connector to your best friends.
Thanks for your time. I was hoping you could give me your 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah, so we're Inside Social, and we help brands measure and increase their social ROI by focusing on the business metrics that really matter, like revenue and conversions, instead of likes and follows.
How do you guys use Amazon Web Services?
Yeah, we use EC2, S3. Amazon powers everything on our back end, and we're just loving the speed and all the options that it provides.
We are 100% on AWS. We use EC2, we use S3, we use Route 53 at this point of time.
So we leverage a lot of the services, obviously EC2, S3, VPC, Dynamo, Route 53. We use a lot of them.
And how do you use AWS?
We have our whole stack hosted there, all of our backends, so we're big-time AWS users. We actually use Route 53 right there.
Great.
We use S3, we use EC2, we use Glacier. I mean, we use a lot. So thanks for the credits, Amazon.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Connect with me online. Read my blog, follow me on Twitter, and leave a comment.